My name is Olivia Chen. I'm 31 years old. 4 months ago, I received a call from Amanda Rodriguez, the financial coordinator at Pacific Fertility Clinic. Ms. Chen, I'm calling about the payments for your sister Jennifer's IVF treatments. We have some questions about the account authorization. I'm sorry, what payments? I don't know anything about Jennifer's IVF. There was a pause. According to our records, you're listed as the financial guarantor and primary payer for 3 IVF cycles, totaling $87,000. The payments came from an account in your name, a trust account from First National Bank. But when we tried to process the final payment for the 4th cycle, the bank flagged it as suspicious activity and froze the account. My stomach dropped. What trust account? The Margaret Chen Memorial Trust. You're listed as the sole beneficiary. Your parents provided the account information and signed authorization forms with your name. We assumed you'd consented to funding your sister's fertility treatments. Margaret Chen was my grandmother. She died 2 years ago and left me her entire estate, $245,000, in a trust that I was supposed to receive on my 30th birthday, which had been 8 months ago. I'd never received a penny. My parents told me the estate was still in probate, and there were complications with the will. They'd been lying. They'd taken my inheritance and spent $87,000 of it on my sister's IVF treatments without my knowledge or consent. But what my parents didn't know was that Amanda was legally required to verify financial authorizations for medical treatments over $50,000, and the bank's fraud alert had triggered a full investigation. The fertility clinic's legal team was already reviewing the forged authorization forms, and I was about to discover that my $245,000 inheritance had been almost entirely drained, not just for IVF, but for my sister's house down payment, her wedding, and her baby preparation expenses. Before I tell you what happened when the bank's fraud investigators showed my parents the forged signatures and calculated that they'd stolen $223,000 from my inheritance, please like and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy this story. Drop a comment. Where are you watching from, and what time is it there? I love connecting with all of you. Now, let me take you back to where my parents' favoritism toward my sister really began. Growing up in Portland, Oregon, I learned early that Jennifer's wants were treated as family emergencies, while my needs were seen as optional requests. My family: Dad, an accountant making about $110,000 annually. Mom, a dental hygienist making $68,000. My sister Jennifer, 3 years older, who'd been catered to from birth and grew into an adult who expected everyone to fund her dreams. And me, the younger daughter, the practical one, the one whose money could be borrowed for Jennifer's benefit. Jennifer got funded. I got expected to contribute. When I was 16, I got my first job. I saved carefully, $800 from 6 months of weekend work at a coffee shop. I was proud of that savings. Then Jennifer needed $600 for a spring break trip with friends. My parents didn't have extra money, so they asked me to loan it to her. She'll pay you back after she gets her tax return, Mom promised. Jennifer never paid me back. When I asked about it months later, she said, "I don't remember borrowing money from you. That must have been from Mom and Dad." My parents sided with her. Don't be petty about money within the family, Olivia. At 18, I got accepted to Oregon State with a partial scholarship. I needed $12,000 annually to cover the rest of my costs. My parents said they'd help with $5,000 per year. The rest was on me. I worked full-time summers and part-time during school. I graduated with $28,000 in student loans. Jennifer went to a private art school that cost $45,000 per year. My parents paid the full amount for all 4 years, $180,000 total. When I pointed out the disparity, Dad said, "Jennifer needs more support. Art school doesn't have the same scholarship opportunities as state school. We help where help is needed." Jennifer graduated with an art degree and no job prospects. I graduated with a finance degree and a job offer at a bank starting at $52,000. At 22, I got my first apartment. I furnished it carefully on a budget, saved for a down payment on a condo, built my emergency fund. Jennifer was living at home rent-free, working part-time at a boutique, making maybe $20,000 a year. My parents supported her fully. "She's finding herself," Mom explained. "Not everyone's path is as straightforward as yours." When I was 25, my grandmother, my mother's mother, was diagnosed with terminal cancer. I spent her last 6 months visiting her twice a week, helping with errands, keeping her company. Jennifer visited 3 times total in 6 months. She was too busy, and it was too depressing. Before my grandmother died, she pulled me aside. "Olivia, I'm leaving you everything. The house, my savings, everything. Your parents and Jennifer will get nothing." "Grandma, that seems harsh." "Your parents enabled Jennifer to become useless. You're the only one who's made something of yourself. You're the only one who's been here for me. The money goes to you. I've made it very clear in my will. You'll receive it all when you turn 30. She passed away 2 weeks later. The will was read. As promised, everything came to me. Her paid-off house worth $175,000, her savings of $70,000, total estate value $245,000, to be held in trust until my 30th birthday. My parents were furious. Jennifer cried for days about being cut out. "Grandma was cruel," Jennifer sobbed. "I loved her. How could she do this?" "You visited her 3 times while she was dying," I said. "I visited her 48 times. She noticed." "Money shouldn't be about who visits more." "It's not about visits. It's about her seeing who actually cared about her as a person versus who just wanted inheritance money." My parents tried to convince me to split the inheritance. It's what Grandma would have wanted if she'd been thinking clearly. She was thinking perfectly clearly. She wanted me to have it. That was her choice. "You're being selfish. Family shares." "Family also respects the wishes of the deceased." I refused to split it. The money went into a trust controlled by a bank, set to transfer to me fully on my 30th birthday. My parents barely spoke to me for months. Jennifer didn't speak to me at all. Then, about a year after Grandma died, Jennifer met Ryan. They got engaged quickly. She wanted a big wedding. My parents couldn't afford it. They asked me to contribute from my inheritance. "The trust isn't accessible until I'm 30, and even if it were, I'm not funding Jennifer's wedding." "She's your sister. This is a once-in-a-lifetime event." "Then she and Ryan should save for it. Or you should help her. Or she should have a wedding she can afford." They were furious, but there was nothing they could do. The trust was controlled by the bank, not them. Jennifer had a modest wedding. She complained about it for years. At 28, Jennifer and Ryan decided they wanted a baby. They tried for a year with no success. Jennifer went to a fertility doctor who recommended IVF. Jennifer had some ovarian issues that made natural conception unlikely. IVF costs in our area: $29,000 per cycle on average. Most people need 2 to 3 cycles. Potential total cost: $60,000 to $90,000. Jennifer and Ryan didn't have that money. My parents didn't have that money. Jennifer called me crying. "I need help. IVF is my only chance at having a baby. Can you help us?" "I don't have that kind of money available." "You have $245,000 in a trust. You're getting it in less than 2 years. Can't you access some early?" "The trust is locked until I'm 30, and even if I could access it, that's money Grandma left me for my future, not for your fertility treatments." "How can you be so heartless? I'm asking for help having a child." "And I'm saying I can't give you $60,000 to $90,000. That's not heartless. That's realistic." She hung up on me. My parents called me a week later. "We found a way to help Jennifer with IVF. The bank that controls your trust has agreed to advance some funds early for family medical emergencies. We're the trustees until you turn 30, so we can authorize it. We're taking $30,000 for Jennifer's first IVF cycle. You can't do that. That's my money. Technically, it's in trust, and we're the trustees. We have the authority to make distributions for family medical needs. The bank confirmed it. Jennifer's infertility isn't my medical emergency. It's a family emergency. We're using our trustee authority. It's happening whether you like it or not. I called the bank. They confirmed that my parents, as trustees, had authority to make distributions for medical emergencies until the trust terminated on my 30th birthday. But it's not my medical emergency, I protested. The trust terms say family medical emergencies. Your parents are arguing your sister's fertility treatment qualifies. Our legal team is reviewing it, but for now, the distribution is approved. I was helpless. My parents took $30,000 from my inheritance for Jennifer's first IVF cycle. It failed. Jennifer was devastated. My parents took another $30,000 for a second cycle. It failed again. They took $27,000 for a third cycle. That one worked. Jennifer got pregnant. She had a healthy baby girl. By the time my 30th birthday arrived 8 months ago, I expected to finally receive my inheritance. I contacted the bank to arrange the transfer. Ms. Chen, we need to inform you that the trust balance is currently $22,000. Your parents made several authorized distributions over the past 2 years. $22,000? It should be $245,000. There have been distributions totaling $223,000. Would you like the detailed transaction history? They sent it. I stared at the list. $30,000, Jennifer's IVF Cycle 1. $30,000, Jennifer's IVF Cycle 2. $27,000, Jennifer's IVF Cycle 3. $48,000, Family Medical Emergency, Housing Adaptation, Jennifer and Ryan's house down payment. $35,000, Family Medical Emergency, Medical Debt, Jennifer's wedding costs they'd put on credit cards. $28,000, Family Medical Emergency, Prenatal Care, Jennifer's baby furniture, nursery, supplies. $25,000, Family Medical Emergency, Ongoing Treatment. I had no idea what this was. They'd drained my inheritance. Almost everything my grandmother left me they'd given to Jennifer. I immediately got a lawyer, Patricia Kim. She reviewed the trust documents and the distribution records. Your parents committed fraud, she said bluntly. Most of these distributions weren't legitimate medical emergencies. A house down payment isn't medical care. Wedding debt isn't medical care. Baby furniture isn't prenatal care. Can I get it back? Yes. We sue for breach of fiduciary duty and fraud. We'll get the money back plus damages. We filed suit. My parents hired a lawyer who claimed all distributions were legitimate under the trust terms. Then, 4 weeks into the lawsuit, Amanda from the fertility clinic called. She explained about the 4th IVF cycle that Jennifer wanted. She wanted another baby. My parents had tried to authorize another $30,000 payment from my trust, but the trust was already depleted to $22,000. So my parents had tried to access an account directly in my name, an old savings account from when I was 16 that they were technically still on as co-signers. The bank's fraud detection system flagged it because the signature on the authorization didn't match my signature on file. The account had been dormant for years, and suddenly there was an attempt to withdraw $30,000. Amanda's verification call was part of the clinic's mandatory due diligence for payments over $10,000. I need to verify this authorization, Amanda said. Can you come to the clinic tomorrow? I met her in person. She showed me the forms my parents had submitted: consent for treatment financing, authorization for payment from my account, acknowledgement of financial responsibility for the 4th IVF cycle. Every form had my signature. None of them were actually signed by me. I have never signed any of these documents, I said. I didn't even know Jennifer wanted a fourth baby. Amanda's expression grew serious. She called in the clinic's legal counsel, David Chen. Ms. Chen, David said, if these signatures are forged, your parents have committed fraud against you and against our clinic. We're required by federal healthcare regulations to verify the identity and consent of financial guarantors. If they misrepresented your authorization, that's a violation of multiple laws. He pulled out more documents. According to our records, you've been listed as the financial guarantor for all 3 previous IVF cycles. Each time your parents brought in signed authorization forms. You're telling us you never signed any of these? Never. I didn't even know they were using my name until you called about the bank flag. We need to report this to law enforcement, David said. This is healthcare fraud, financial fraud, and identity theft. The fertility clinic's investigation found forged signatures on all the payment authorizations. My parents had been claiming I'd consented to fund Jennifer's IVF, even signing forms with my forged signature. The bank investigation found the same pattern: forged authorizations, fraudulent medical emergency claims, systematic theft of trust assets. Criminal charges were filed: fraud, forgery, theft, breach of fiduciary duty. The evidence was overwhelming. My parents had taken $223,000 from my inheritance, claimed it was all for Jennifer's medical care, forged my signatures, and lied to multiple institutions. The trial was devastating for them. Their lawyer tried to argue they genuinely believed the trust terms allowed these distributions for family medical needs. But Patricia systematically destroyed that defense. She brought in expert witnesses, financial forensic accountants, and the institutions my parents had defrauded. The bank's trust officer, Margaret Williams, testified first. I'm the senior trust officer who administered the Margaret Chen Memorial Trust. I raised concerns about several distributions the defendants requested. Patricia showed the jury emails. Can you read this email from March 2023? Margaret read, Mr. and Mrs. Chen, I need documentation for the $48,000 medical emergency housing adaptation distribution you're requesting. What medical condition requires housing adaptation, and how does this relate to the beneficiary, Olivia Chen? What response did you receive? Patricia asked. Mr. Chen called me and said it was time-sensitive, that his daughter Jennifer needed accessible housing due to pregnancy complications. He said if I delayed the distribution, I'd be responsible for any medical consequences. Did he provide medical documentation? No. He said they'd send it later, but never did. He was very aggressive, made it seem like an emergency. I approved it based on his assurances. Did you later discover this wasn't a legitimate medical expense? Yes. It was a down payment on a house for Jennifer. No medical necessity at all. I'd been manipulated. The jury looked at my parents with disgust. Next, Amanda from the fertility clinic testified. She brought the forged authorization forms, all 4 of them, one for each attempted IVF cycle. Can you point to the signatures on these forms? Patricia asked. Amanda indicated each one. These 4 signatures all claimed to be Olivia Chen's, but when we compared them to her actual signature from her driver's license and bank records, they don't match. They're clearly forged. Patricia displayed a comparison on the screen. My real signature versus the 4 forged ones. Even I could see the differences. The forged ones were clearly in my mother's handwriting. Who submitted these forms? Patricia asked. Mrs. Chen brought them in personally for the first 3 cycles. For the 4th cycle, they were emailed from Mr. Chen's email address. Did you ever speak directly to Olivia about authorizing payment? No. Mrs. Chen said Olivia was too busy with work and had authorized them to handle everything. We accepted that explanation. David from the clinic's legal team testified about federal healthcare regulations requiring verified consent from financial guarantors. The Chens violated multiple federal regulations by submitting forged authorizations, he said. This exposed our clinic to significant legal liability. If we'd processed the fourth cycle payment based on forged documents, we could have faced federal penalties. Jennifer was called to testify. She claimed she didn't know the money came from my inheritance, but prosecutors showed her text messages to my parents. Can you get more money from Olivia's trust? We want to try for another baby. Another text. I can't believe Olivia won't help us voluntarily. Thank God you have access to her money. She knew. She was complicit. The jury convicted my parents on all counts. They were sentenced to 18 months in prison, suspended to house arrest due to age and first-time offense, 5 years probation, and ordered to repay the full $223,000, plus interest and legal fees. Total judgment, $267,000. They had to sell their house to pay it. Jennifer and Ryan were ordered to contribute $87,000, the amount directly spent on IVF, under civil liability for unjust enrichment. My inheritance was restored. I received $267,000, which I immediately put into accounts only I controlled. I bought a condo. I invested the rest. I'm financially secure. My relationship with my family is over. My parents send letters trying to justify their actions. We were trying to help both our daughters. Jennifer deserved to be a mother. You had so much and she had nothing. They don't see it as theft. They see it as redistributing family resources. Jennifer wrote me one email. You destroyed our parents' lives over money. You got your money back. Why couldn't you just let it go? Now our parents are criminals and we lost our house. I didn't respond. She doesn't understand that they stole from me, lied to me, forged my signature, and claimed I'd consented when I hadn't. Here's what I learned. Some parents see one child's resources as family property to be distributed to another child. They justify theft as helping family and expect the victim to be grateful for the privilege of funding their sibling's life. My parents took my grandmother's gift to me, money she'd saved for decades, money she specifically wanted me to have, and gave it to Jennifer for IVF, a house, a wedding, and baby expenses. They saw Jennifer's wants as more important than my inheritance rights. They forged my signature and committed fraud because they genuinely believed Jennifer deserved my money more than I did. If you have inheritance in a trust with family members as trustees, verify the balances regularly. Request transaction records. Question distributions. Don't assume family won't steal from you. And if you discover theft, report it. Even if it's your parents. Even if it funded your sister's baby. Even if family says you're destroying lives by holding people accountable. Theft is theft. Fraud is fraud. Even when it's family. Especially when it's family. Before you go, I'd love to hear from you. Have family members stolen inheritance or used fiduciary access to take your money? How did you discover it? What did you do? Drop your thoughts in the comments. And if this story resonated, share it with someone who needs to hear it. Thank you for listening. Thank you for being here. And remember, inheritance is a gift from someone who loved you. Protect it fiercely from people who think they have more right to it than you do. I'm Olivia Chen. I'm 31 years old. My parents took $223,000 from my inheritance to fund my sister's IVF, house, wedding, and baby expenses. A fertility clinic financial coordinator discovered the fraud when they tried to forge my signature for a fourth IVF cycle. My parents were convicted. I got my money back. And I learned that family members who steal your inheritance will always justify it as helping family while taking everything that was meant for you. Protect your inheritance. It's not family money, it's your money, and you don't owe it to anyone, not even your sister's fertility treatments.